How many times must Donald Trump associate himself with Hitler, compare himself to Hitler, talk like Hitler, use Hitler's language, himself doing it, but also his administration? Donald Trump, how many times have you heard him talk about poisoning the blood of the country and calling immigrants and non-white people vermin? He is our version of Adolf Hitler. J.D. Vance thinks so. J.D. Vance said as much. But also his Department of Homeland Security using the aesthetic choices of Nazi propaganda, using the actual phrases of Nazi propaganda. Yesterday, the Department of Education tweeted this: "No one does it like us," with a little tiger emoji. And it was community note fact-checked, or community noted, if we're going to use that as a verb. And this was the community note on the video that I'm getting ready to show you. Actually, let's do this. Here is the post that was tweeted and then deleted by the United States Department of Education in praise of the dear leader, comparing him to a tiger. Then I'll show you the community note.
You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth.
So ostensibly, Donald Trump is a bold, decisive leader. He's the tiger that you can't negotiate with when your head is in his mouth. The problem lies in the fact that that movie, that's The Darkest Hour, where Gary Oldman plays Winston Churchill. This was the community note. This clip is from the film Darkest Hour, and the tiger in this clip refers to Adolf Hitler. And then when this was pointed out, of course, once it's publicly and widely known, they retreat from that obvious white supremacist position that Donald Trump should be compared to Hitler, or that Hitler is someone to compare yourself to. This is the 29 seconds or so from the scene in that movie to prove the point that the scene was about Hitler.
Hitler will not insist on outrageous terms. He will know his own weaknesses. He will be reasonable.
When will the lesson be learned? When will the lesson be learned? How many more dictators must be wooed, appeased, good God, given him mixed privileges, before we learn? You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth.
And Donald Trump wants to be compared to Hitler. Donald Trump's administration, the people he's chosen to put around him, want him to be compared to Hitler, a man vanquished by, in some part, the United States' military effort in World War II. Absolutely disgusting and unhinged, detached from reality, because Donald Trump is not some kind of a ruthless, strong man. He's ruthless in many ways, but he's not a tough guy. Adolf Hitler wasn't really a tough guy. Just a weak, afraid, white supremacist piece of shit like Donald Trump. This, by the way, this is their tiger. Donald Trump starting trade wars, and then rather than coming to the table in good faith to negotiate his way out of the problem he created, he takes the Oval Office to make cute little videos about changing the name of Lake Ontario. I talked about this yesterday. This is the Republican Party's tiger.
So this is Lake Ontario in Canada and in the United States. But we're going to make a little change. We're going to call it something different than Lake Ontario. We're going to call it Lake America. And all it takes is a good pen and some intelligence. So Lake Ontario, that's gone. Lake America. So now we have a lake, and now we have a gulf, because we have the Gulf of America, now we have Lake America, without the of. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy Lake America.
And now we have a Lake America without the of. Cool. Cool. What a tiger. What a scary, formidable opponent. I laugh. But what does it say about where we are as America? As the beacon of freedom, that shining city on a hill that Ronald Reagan talked about so much. The example of democracy globally is what they want you to believe. And Donald Trump out here comparing himself to Hitler. Again, it's becoming a refrain because it's cementing itself as fact. We're the bad guys now. They want to act like we're a force for good. No, we're not. Not right now. Not for the foreseeable future, we're not. Not until we can get some Democrats after the midterm into the House of Representatives who are ready to take this on, who are ready to combat America's Hitler, who are ready to impeach, convict, and remove America's Hitler. And how are we to expect everyone around us to think of Donald Trump as anything other than what he wants you to think of him as? He wants you to think he's America's Hitler. His vice president has called him as much. Everything they do signals we admire the Nazis. We admire what the Nazis did. We admire the Nazis' leader, Adolf Hitler. In fact, our guy, Mr. Fine People on both sides, Nazis and anti-fascists, fine people on both sides. That guy, that's who he wants you to think of him as. Otherwise, why would this keep happening? What a weird coincidence that this keeps happening over and over and over with the Trump administration in this second term. Donald Trump does not feel accountable to public opinion. Obviously, he doesn't feel accountable or beholden to public opinion. Otherwise, he would be dealing with the inflation problem that is rampant and out of control. The affordability crisis that he has created and exacerbated. He would worry about those things, fix those things, do the thing he promised to do dozens, if not hundreds of times during the 2024 campaign. What was obvious to us, you and me, is now becoming obvious to an audience that once didn't believe it, that thought you and I were alarmists. And we were not. We were right. Their bold and aggressive signals about who they are and who he is, they're now becoming bolder. It's no more dog whistles. It's now Donald Trump is Hitler. Imagine where we'll be in 6 months or a year and a half. What do you think? I welcome you to this conversation. It is not bombast. It is not alarmism. This is real. This is real. Comment below, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. I'd love to see you there. For how long have the Republicans been talking about individual responsibility and small government? Having the government out of your life, controlling what you do, telling you what to do, making things safe for you. Ooh, they're so afraid of the government. I mean, Ronald Reagan back in the 80s said that the 9 most terrifying words you can hear are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And yet Republicans, they are terrified, petrified of everything woke or CRT or any host of things that they want the government to intervene, to control and restrict your access to. Things that are very scary and very dangerous, like drag shows. And a judge, a Republican-appointed judge, a Ronald Reagan-appointed judge, just slapped back the Republican Party, just slapped back Ken Paxton in Texas as a usurper of liberty, of someone who is effectively just a Karen. I mean, the Republican Party is now the party of Karen. It's just a giant Karen party. You can't park here. You can't do that. Why are you in the swimming pool? It's the same thing. Except this isn't about black people. It is in some cases, but this particular case is about drag shows. This is the headline from NBC News. Judge strikes down Texas ban on drag shows, tells people offended by them, quote, just don't go. The federal judge, who cited Dolly Parton in his ruling, found that the state law violated the First Amendment. I thought Texas was the freedom state, where you could go and go about your life and days unmolested by the government and the intent of high-level regulations that want to control your life. What if you're an adult? What if you want to exist in this life without government interference telling you what you can and can't watch, where you can and can't go? All of these tenets that you've heard from the Republican Party. Well, apparently a federal judge in Texas has called the Republican Party just a bunch of Karens. A federal judge in Texas struck down a 2023 state law Tuesday that sought to restrict drag shows, ruling it was unconstitutional. U.S. District Judge David Hittner, a Reagan appointee, said the measure, known as Texas Senate Bill 12, improperly restricted speech, violating the First Amendment of the Constitution. The ruling prevents State Attorney General Ken Paxton, who is running for the Senate, from enforcing the law and denies his motion for a new trial. In the ruling, Hittner also had advice for, quote, those who find such activities as described in this case offensive. The solution is relatively simple. Just don't go, he wrote. And this really has been the mantra. If you don't like the lyrics in a song, don't listen to that song. You don't like what's on a particular movie or TV show, don't go there. Don't patronize that movie. Don't go to a business you don't like. Don't go to a bar that has a drag show brunch on Sunday or whatever. If you don't like it, don't go. You don't like the Muslim faith, don't go to a mosque. You don't like abortion, don't have an abortion. But the Republican Party wants to feign like they're against government interference and intrusion in your life, overreaching, when they just don't want the government telling them what to do about things they don't agree with or believe. It's not about liberty. It's not about freedom. And this judge called it out. The state law would fine business owners who were found to be in violation up to $10,000 for hosting events, while performers could be charged with a Class A misdemeanor, which could result in up to 1 year of jail time. Yeah, freedom, liberty, small government. The statute, which has been the source of a years-long legal battle, has made its way to Hittner's courtroom before. Hittner first deemed it unconstitutional and a violation of the First Amendment in 2023, but the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals returned it to him in November, lifting a pause on the law and giving him specific instructions about how to reassess it. It went back into effect last year following the appeals court ruling. Texas is among a handful of states that have passed legislation that restrict drag shows. It's so stupid. It is just, if I want to go to a drag show as an adult, I mean, I've never been to a drag show, but okay, that's my choice. As a free adult, as a free man in the United States of America. I guess not in Texas, though. It is amazing to me, I'm going to finish this, but it is amazing to me how many of these cases come around, especially now in the age of Donald Trump's second term, where it just gets found they're violating the Constitution. This is a federal judge. You're violating the United States Constitution. You are violating the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. What happened to all these free speech purists out there? What happened to that? Hittner struck down the law Tuesday after having followed the framework that the higher court asked him to follow. In his ruling, Hittner mentioned Dolly Parton, whose death was announced Tuesday, and criticized the law's definition of banning performances that, quote, appeal to prurient interest, citing people who would chastise Parton, quote, as a voluptuous sex symbol because her big hair, flamboyant clothes, and breast exposure. There are exotic elements in countless popular performances that could be subject to both civil and criminal penalties under SB 12, he wrote. One of the plaintiffs in the case, a drag queen who performs under the name Brigitte Bandit, impersonates Parton in her performances. Bandit celebrated the ruling on social media Tuesday, posting a screenshot of the decision and captioning it, "Drag is free speech." I assume the B is bitch or bitches. She announced she would also perform as Parton, who gave her a rhinestone guitar as a gift in 2023 at an Austin bar Saturday in her honor. Go find that bar. That might be a good time. And then finally here, Hittner added that the law was so overly broad as to lead even activities such as cheerleading, dancing, live theater, and other common public occurrences to be treated as civil or criminal violations. He also said that the law was vague on its face and that it failed, quote, to give a reasonable person notice of what is prohibited. Because the intent of it is not to actually create a law that is workable. Their intent is to create a law that is harassing, that is repressive, that is regressive, that restricts someone's freedom and choices and free speech, violating the United States Constitution, a document to which Ken Paxton raised his right hand and swore an oath to, a solemn vow before his God that he would not violate, that he would support and defend. Not only the Constitution of the state of Texas, but also the Constitution of the United States of America, which supersedes state laws. The problem lies in the fact that they don't care about the Constitution. They are not loyal to the Constitution. They're not loyal to their oaths. They're liars who want to oppress all the things that scare them or maybe titillate them. That's why they are hyper-focused on masculinity and sperm count and testosterone levels and whatever else. Hypocrisy running amok in the party of Karens, Republicans. What do you think? I welcome you to this conversation. If you're from Texas, I'd love to hear from you. If you're going to go try to find this Brigitte, what was the name? Bridget Bandit. Go find that show. Let me know how it is. Tag me on social media at Dollemore just about everywhere. I'd love to see your comments. Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. You may have heard about this story. You may have even seen this headline from the New York Times. Trump officials propose sale of woke painting by Kehinde Wiley. The State Department recently removed the painting of Dominicans from the U.S. Embassy, noting it was by the artist who made Barack Obama's presidential portrait. This is the painting, if you haven't seen it already. They're calling that woke. If you needed any more evidence whatsoever, if you were on the fence about whether or not woke was just a replacement for the N-word, now you have your answer. It is absolutely just white supremacy. It is fear of black and brown people, maybe not even fear, hatred, disapproval at the level of melanin in their skin. What makes a painting woke? Apparently, just the existence of black people makes it woke. And Erin Scavino, the director of art in embassies, that's a real job, apparently. Donald Trump made her the director of art in embassies. And you might wonder, how did she get her job? How do you get that gig? Well, apparently, what you need to do is be the new wife of Donald Trump's former caddy, Dan Scavino. Erin Scavino is Dan Scavino, the caddy, Donald Trump's caddy. It's his wife, who's now the director of art in embassies. You think there's a director of art in other government buildings around Washington, D.C.? Well, I don't know what to start with here, whether it's about her getting her job or throwing around the word woke tards, all very strange. She did an interview with former White House press secretary Sean Spicer, where she talked about the unusual nature of her job, but totally meritocratic. She totally got the job on the merits of who she is and what her expertise is, not on the fact that she's married to Donald Trump's former caddy, who's now has some high position, I think, within the chief of staff's office in the White House. Watch this, her talk about her job, and also use slurs to describe Democrats.
Walk me through, you mentioned your job, day one hire. I honestly, I've been in Washington in and out for 30 years. I didn't know that this was a position.
That makes two of us.
Okay. So how did this happen for you?
So, the haters are going to be like, they created this job for her. No. President Kennedy started this program in 1964.
Okay.
So this is not new. And
Right.
it's a political appointee. So if it's Biden, they get some woke tard in here. If it's a Trump person, you get someone who loves our country and is super
Was there a
MAGA.
big difference when you started looking at the art? I can tell by the expression on your face. You don't just say woke tard out of nowhere. I look around, I'm inspired. I look at these photographs and I think, wow, this is an amazing country. There's amazing patriots.
President Kennedy started this job in 1964. How dare you act like I got this job by anything other than being super smart about art? She's so smart about art that she says that this painting created by a black artist, the same guy who did the Obama portrait, like we said from the New York Times headline, that it's aesthetically terrifying and very, very woke. She doesn't explain why it's woke. I think we can all just surmise that's because black people exist on canvas here. But watch her explain how aesthetically terrifying this woke painting is.
Actually, Leah Campos, who's one of our great ambassadors, she had a piece of art in her embassy that we worked very hard to get taken down. It was very woke. It was by the gentleman who did Obama's portrait, and it was aesthetically terrifying.
Why would it be hard? Explain to people, why wouldn't Erin Scavino say, I'm in charge of this, we control the State Department, that's offensive?
Well, that's what we ultimately did.
But is there a deep state that says I like that?
So when you have art in the actual embassy as opposed to the residence, it's part of a permanent collection.
Oh, okay.
So that sort of lives there and was purchased under the purview of obviously someone on the other side.
So
it was very woke. What's woke about that? I'm looking here on my monitor. Got some flowers and some black people sitting. Color for clothes. What's woke? What makes that woke? Again, woke just means the N-word now. It's a way for them to say it and get away with saying it. That's all it is. That is absolutely all it is. And it's a replacement. The reason they want to get rid of these black people and these black artists and this woke stuff is so that they can bring in patriotic artists who love the country, but more importantly, she says it, love the President of the United States, Donald Trump. That's what this is about. He is a racist. He is a white supremacist who is fearful and hateful about black people. And so they want to get rid of all the woke art. In fact, this is such a farce and such a nonsense thing that is laughable. It's so laughable that Sean Spicer laughs when she makes the comment about patriotic artists.
So of the artists that are here, give me a sense of how many artists are here, what their backgrounds are, etc.
So over 30 artists, they're all patriots. They all love this country. They're all positive individuals who care about our nation. I wanted this exhibition to be very patriotic, and it is.
Yeah.
And when we're walking around, I'll give you everyone's stories too, and you're going to be really inspired. A lot of them were inspired by 9/11. A lot of them were inspired by growing up in poverty in a third world country and then became an American citizen. So there's lots of inspiration.
And how did people find out about this? What did the word look like when it went out to get people to participate, to send in their There are.
Word of mouth and grace of God, honestly. When I got this job almost 2 years ago, the president appointed me. I was a day one hire. I started to get to know patriotic artists, and one connection gets to another connection. And now I have a whole museum, over 30 artists, and I pinch myself every day.
Did you catch it? Him laughing about, and they're all patriotic. And he laughs, he tips his head back and laughs because it's laughable. It's a joke. What do you mean patriotic artists who love Donald Trump? That's all that matters to these people. They have this weird exhibit up, the patriotism on display or whatever, and it's just flag after flag after. Are we that weak? Does our country not represent something strong that can withstand a few slings and arrows and an accurate representation of our history? Now they're going to start yanking down paintings, trying to sell the paintings on the market to get rid of it. They don't even want to own it. I'm surprised they're not burning it or throwing it in a dumpster, that they're actually going to try to sell it and preserve its legacy as the painting. Let's sell it to somebody who appreciates the woke paintings. Just absolutely destructive ideology, hateful ideology, an ideology based in fear and white supremacy, and also cronyism, that this dipshit has the job, director of art in embassies, getting paid a government salary from we the people. This is a taxpayer paid position. Talk about fraud, waste, and abuse. Anyway, what do you think? I welcome you to this conversation. It's important not just because of the preservation or the destruction of art, but also because this is the ideology that is running our government. It's a group of people who desperately want to use the N-word, but can't, so they make up a substitute. In this case, woke. A few years before, it was CRT. Gross. What do you think? I welcome you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video on Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Please consider supporting this work that I do here, help produce this show. You can become a channel member on YouTube by clicking the join button below. Go to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast, or clickety-clack your way via your browser over to Dollemore.com and check out the new merch. Stop electing stupid people. And we've got stickers on the way, so look out for that too. Andy Biggs is a Republican. Andy Biggs is a Republican Mormon. Andy Biggs is a Republican who is a white supremacist, and he is running for governor of Arizona against Katie Hobbs. All of these things matter. They matter because when Andy Biggs was the leader of the Arizona State Senate, he squelched a bill. He ended the pursuit of justice for victims of a systemic ring of child abusers led by Warren Jeffs in Arizona, Colorado City, Arizona, where the fundamentalist Latter-day Saint cult presides, where they kept their women and their girls under wraps to keep sweet and obey, as they married off young teenage girls to elderly men. And Andy Biggs knew about it and allowed it to happen because a bill came before him in the Senate to decertify this particular police department in Colorado City, Arizona, that was run by Warren Jeffs, that protected Warren Jeffs, another flavor of Mormonism. And I don't know if it's because of his faith. I don't know if it's because to protect the broader church, the LDS church, which in its own has a child molestation and child rape problem. They provide a phone number. This has all made the news a few years ago. They set up this phone number where if you had been abused or a family member had been abused, you would call it and they would ostensibly be helping you with legal representation. But actually it was to the church, and they would try to extricate themselves from trouble and get you to not report it. Real sinister stuff here, but not surprising from a Republican organization. And the Mormon Church, like many other conservative churches out there, is just an arm of the Republican Party. Here, I have a clip of him admitting that he knew what was going on. But before I play that, I want to give you a kind of the lay of the land. This is from a documentary on YouTube called Red Line. from the Copper State victory. And it really goes into granular detail about what was going on from the victims, from a woman who was married off when she was 14 years old. Watch this.
I was once a scared little girl who didn't have a say in her own life. I was 18 years old and had already been married for 4 years. The man I was married to was abusive. It's easy for people to assume that it's as easy as just walking out the door, but it isn't.
If a young woman felt that she was being abused and she wanted to get out of the situation, the only option she had was to call the marshal's office, 911. That was a direct line to Warren Jeffs.
Jeffs holds an entire community captive
and has a rogue police force at his command.
The ability for the perpetrators to use law enforcement in the community was a huge power play.
As a police officer, trust is everything. The badge, the uniform, like that's your symbol of, hey, I'm a safe haven for you.
7 marshals have had their police certifications revoked. One marshal was convicted of unlawful sexual conduct with a 16-year-old girl. Another admitted to molesting a 5-year-old girl.
They're, in my opinion, the worst injustice happening in the state of Arizona right now.
Here are 2 of many books that were printed when Mr. Biggs was president of the Senate. This one was a bestseller. You couldn't have been alive and in a leadership position and not known that Colorado City was a festering sore.
Marshals wrote letters to Warren Jeffs pledging their loyalty.
You would ask them under oath, and they would answer truthfully that they were following the orders of Warren Jeffs. Both Republicans and Democrats were absolutely fundamentally opposed to what was going on in Colorado City and stood up against it.
Arizona Attorney General Tom Horne wants to shut the marshal's office down completely. In March, Tom Horne's bill passed the Arizona House 52-7, but it's here in the Senate where the bill died.
I spoke with 2 Republican lawmakers who accused Biggs of killing the bill.
Republican colleagues accuse you of killing this bill.
Well, I can't remember the procedure.
All he had to do was to look at the headlines or look at any of the television coverage if he hadn't already heard it. Mr. Biggs refused to bring forward a bipartisan bill that would have done something to eliminate the marshals as the sole law enforcement and the implementers of the tyranny of Warren Jeffs.
I wasn't concerned that we were going to actually bury stuff. Did we have enough as a state to step in? I don't know.
It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Child abuse, child victims, that should be a red line for anybody.
Courage was leaving the cult that I had been born into. It was knowing that staying silent was going to protect the wrong people. I would like Andy Biggs to explain why he chose to not support this bill and not protect women and children.
Disgusting. And rather than protect children, rather than put an end to that particular police department, Andy Biggs killed it, allowed them to continue raping children, abusing children, child marriage to old men like Warren Jeffs, who's now in prison for this. And when asked about it, he didn't deny. He didn't say, well, I didn't know all the details. He says with his mouth, no, I was the Senate president and I knew what was going on.
Yeah. Give you the opportunity to respond to allegations that you killed a bill in 2013 that would have stopped the FLDS. You're calling it a cult in Colorado City where young girls are being married and raped due to the guise of religion. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know that you're misstating even the allegation against me. The allegation against me is that I killed a bill that would have decertified that police office, that police force. All I can tell you right now is that even as we stand here at this police event, the Fraternal Order of Police opposed that bill, and that bill never came to a vote.
You didn't know what was going on?
No, I was the Senate president. I knew what was going on.
I mean about the FLDS, marrying up the young girls who were underage.
We heard bits and pieces of it. It was also an investigation by the feds at the time. So we're ready to move on.
So not only is Andy Biggs a virulent white supremacist, an election denier, a supporter of the insurrection against the country, an opponent of democracy itself, he also he created an atmosphere where more girls would be married off as children, where more girls would be raped on weird temple tables on this compound, where girls would have to escape for their lives. And he wants to be governor of Arizona. He wants to be governor of Arizona to faithfully execute that the laws of that state are followed, are enforced. He cannot be trusted. And I think there's an outsized portion of even Republicans who will see this as a disqualifying element of his past performance in his job. They might not look across at the insurrection against the country and attempted end of democracy in our nation. They might not look across at that. But this, for as long as the Republican Party is banged on about protecting the kids and the QAnon conspiracy theories and all the Epstein files, and we want it, we want it, we want it, we want to see people hung, we want to see prosecutions, they believed it. And now they're learning that the people they trusted to actually provide those arrests and those prosecutions were in on it, like Andy Biggs. What do you think? I welcome you to this, I believe, very important conversation. He's not running for Congress. It might not be national news in a way that it should be, but we can make it national news. We can share this story and be talking about this with friends and neighbors and spreading the word, signal boosting what is going on with Andy Biggs. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to see you there. Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, they all have comment sections. Let's act appropriately. Let's act accordingly and leave a comment. You can also share this video, like this video, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, that you follow the Dollemore Daily on Facebook and on Spotify. The party of meritocracy has decided that Lindsey Graham's sister should be their next senator. Unqualified, not very smart, really has showed no aptitude for the job at all. And she is up against an actual expert in many topics, Annie Andrews, a physician. And the other day, Darline Graham made some comments about her parents and about the evils and the scary positions that Annie Andrews holds, like wanting everyone to have health care and not die of preventable disease based on their income or access to the aforementioned health care. Annie Andrews was actually on CNN yesterday. This is probably the best way to begin this. Being asked about this comment from Darline Graham, and she really ended the campaign of Darline Graham in November with the election upcoming, and really cemented herself as the only choice for South Carolina. I want to share this moment with you. But then I want to talk about, notice they're going to play that clip of Darline Graham talking about healthcare and her parents going to work sick and having to work until they die, just like that's the way it should be, because that's America and patriotism and rah, 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 whatever. But I noticed something very stark from that particular clip, and I want to talk about it after this and after Annie Andrews' comments here. It involves her being a know-nothing and having all of her talking points delivered to her. And I got the receipts. First, watch Annie Andrews on CNN yesterday talking about her opponent now, Darline Graham.
I want to play a bit of something else Darline Graham said last night. Let's listen.
Gun control, government-run health care, abortion until the moment of birth. Bad idea after bad idea. Annie Andrews backs them all. My parents worked long, hard hours to make ends meet. We didn't take vacations. If they were sick, they had to get up and go to work because the doors weren't open, we weren't making money. My mother passed away when I was 11 and my father just over a year later.
She obviously has roots in South Carolina, and to a degree, this argument about some of the more, leftward policies that Democrats have pronounced recently, and in comparison to her argument about her parents not taking vacations to sort of lift yourself up by the bootstraps, traditional conservative messaging. I wonder if you think that is going to appeal to voters in a state that hasn't elected a Democratic senator since 1998.
So what she said there was that her healthcare plan is you should work hard until you die. I'm a physician who's worked on the front lines of America's broken healthcare system for 20 years, taking care of South Carolina's sick and injured children. I've sat with parents who are concerned that they're not going to be able to afford their child's insulin or their child's asthma inhaler. I've talked to parents who show up at the emergency department unexpectedly with a sick or injured child who now are worried they're going to be thrown into bankruptcy. I believe that we deserve better. I believe that Darlene's parents deserved better. I believe that healthcare is a human right, that we must shift America's profit-motivated healthcare system to a patient-centered healthcare system that actually meets the needs of everyone in this country. I believe we need to stop the impending Medicaid budget cuts. These are the urgent problems I'm hearing from South Carolina voters. Darlene is resorting to culture war topics that have no basis in reality. And I continue to crisscross the state of South Carolina talking to voters about what they're really concerned about. They're frustrated that Trump ran on lowering grocery prices and not starting new wars, and he's done the exact opposite of that. People are ready for something different, and if South Carolina voters are ready to try something different, they can check me out at drannieandrews.com.
Nice little website plug at the end there, drannieandrews.com. You should probably go check that out. If you have a few dollars, you could donate to this campaign. Let me tell you, there's a stark difference between the agenda items and priorities of Republicans and Democrats. What Andy Andrews said there, what Dr. Andrews said there is absolutely correct. What Darline Graham, the talking points that she's reading, we'll get to that. But what she's reading there is that you should work until you're dead. It's the same thing they all talk about. Dr. Oz, you'd be patriotic and don't worry about the healthcare failings of the United States. Every other developed nation on the planet has socialist medicine, has universal healthcare for its citizens. How can we, they always talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the thing that Thomas Jefferson wrote about in the Declaration of Independence. How can we have life in the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness if you cannot protect that life through healthcare? If we have a guarantee of life, then we have a guarantee to protect that life through healthcare. And the evils that she mentioned, gun control, not wanting our kids slaughtered in school apparently is some kind of a socialist nightmare. Healthcare, yeah, that's a socialist nightmare. And also access to reproductive health care for women. Those are the things that are anathema to Darline Graham, who is reading her talking points. And that's really what I want to get to here. Anytime she speaks in a way that is declarative or definitive, like you just watched her, she's fumbling and bumbling around herself for sure, but she's reading words that have been given to her. She does not have the intelligence or the acumen to do this job. There is no level of expertise within the core of who Darline Graham is. None. Because when she's left to her own devices, we know what happens. When she doesn't have access to written documentation and things to read that were given to her, she fumbles and fails. Remember the moment in the debate just from a few days ago where she was asked about something that every person seeking federal elected office should have an understanding of. She's not running to be a city council person in some town in South Carolina. She's not running to be a county commissioner. She's running to be a United States senator and failed when she was asked a very specific question.
Okay. Go ahead. On the national security question as well, Senator, are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States? If so, why?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States, and if so, why or how?
I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not on national security. I'm not that informed on national security, but I do support the military. My brother was in the Air Force for 33 years, so I will do everything I can to support the military. My dad was in the Army. I'm not a polished politician up here. National security is not my thing, not my area of expertise, but I do support the military.
Congressman, I'll give you a chance to respond, and I'm sure he recognizes that.
Taiwan's a definite ally, and we have a trading relationship with them that is beneficial to the United States, chips being one of them, and others. So what the president is doing right is he's enabling Taiwan to defend themselves against China. But it's peace through strength that he's showing with Iran that China, Russia, others are looking at it so that they don't want to deal with America, and that's why they haven't attacked Taiwan. If they had some weak Democrat in office like Biden or another Obama, yeah, they'd take it over. But we can't let that happen. We got to take a strong, a peace through strength is working.
I don't know about that, but I do love the military. Great. There's lots of people who love the military. That doesn't make them qualified to be a United States senator. It doesn't make them qualified or eligible. I guess they're technically eligible, but I'm talking colloquially here. You're not eligible. You're not qualified. You're not capable to be one of 100 United States senators making decisions that impact the lives of hundreds of millions of Americans and billions of other human beings relative to foreign policy and treaties and the people that you appoint through the Constitution's mandate of advice and consent of Donald Trump's nominees. It is an outsized portion of responsibility that the vast majority of Americans will never know. You should be the smartest among us, the best among us, the most informed among us. And Darline Graham is anything but that. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think about this. If you're from South Carolina, I would really love your opinion. What is the feeling and the sentiment on the ground? 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. Hey, if you want to help support this work, I would encourage you to do so. I would be honored if you would consider it. If you're not on a fixed income, if you're not in a situation where this burdensome economy is taking its toll, if you have a couple extra bucks a month and you want to help support and produce this work, you can do so. Become a channel member on YouTube. Click the join button wherever you see it on the channel. You can also go over to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast or get yourself some merch. Stop electing stupid people. I mean, it's very fitting. We're talking about Darline Graham here. Stop electing stupid people. Dollemore.com. What happened to all that fraud talk? J.D. Vance is the fraud czar. He's out there beating the bushes to come up with cases of fraud. Doge came out, effectively killing millions of people that are projected to be dead by 2030 because of the cuts to USAID, the shuttering of USAID. Because of fraud, waste, and abuse, fraud, waste, and abuse, fraud, waste, and abuse. That's the thing Republicans are so focused on. It's very important that we get to the bottom of it. Wait a minute, what's this? Ron DeSantis and Ashley Moody, the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, the former attorney general for the state of Florida, and now current seated United States Senator Ashley Moody, stole $10 million of taxpayer money to put it into a charity that would then be used for political purposes. What's this? Fraud? I can't even hardly believe it. The Miami Herald, I'm going to read 2 paragraphs to you, and then we're going to cut to a CBS News Miami explanation of what exactly is afoot here, that a grand jury has found Ron DeSantis and Ashley Moody misappropriated, which is a very fancy way of saying stole, $10 million. A grand jury in Leon County determined that DeSantis administration misappropriated, that means stole taxpayer funds by redirecting $10 million from a Medicaid settlement into a state charity to fund political activities. But there wasn't enough evidence to charge anyone criminally, they say, according to the sealed report. What a weird coincidence that a prosecutor could get this kind of a pronouncement from a grand jury, but they just don't have enough evidence for any criminal charges against Ron DeSantis, Republican stalwart, and Ashley Moody. How strange. Miami Herald news partner CBS Miami dropped the bombshell Wednesday night, releasing a copy of the sealed grand jury report, which said money tied to a healthcare contractor's overbilling of taxpayers instead lined the pockets of the Republican Party of Florida and 2 political action committees controlled by the governor's chief of staff. And in 2024, that money was used to defeat a campaign to legalize recreational marijuana in the state. Another case piggybacking off of something we talked about earlier in the show. Another case of the Republican Party wanting the government to make decisions that you should be making as an adult. Right. Well, CBS News Miami did break this. They have the sealed grand jury transcripts and report. Pretty remarkable stuff here. This is what was at the heart of what they called a scheme, a criminal enterprise to pump $10 million into the Republican Party of Florida using a settlement of fraud against the people of Florida in a Medicare fraud case.
For months, CBS Miami has been trying to speak to Senator Ashley Moody about her role in the Hope Florida scandal. Her office and her campaign have not responded to detailed questions about Hope Florida, and last week, during what was supposed to be a press conference, Moody fled without taking any questions.
Senator, would you answer a few questions, Senator? Senator, could you answer a few questions from the press, Senator?
In February, however, Moody would have been given a copy of the grand jury report, which offered a stinging rebuke of her as well as her former Chief Deputy Attorney General, John Gard. The report claims Gard approved the settlement without conducting his due diligence to ensure the proper appropriation of taxpayer funds. This all started after Florida officials learned the healthcare giant Centene had been overbilling the state for prescription drugs under the Florida Healthy Kids program. Florida wasn't the only state affected. At least 20 other states were overbilled nearly $1 billion. Florida's share was calculated to be $67 million. Centene was prepared to refund $67 million to Florida taxpayers. But in September of 2024, someone in the DeSantis administration came up with the idea of diverting $10 million of the settlement to the Hope Florida Foundation. Centene found the request unusual and inserted language in the settlement agreement that they were being directed by the Florida Attorney General to make that payment. Gard acknowledged to the grand jury he had reservations about the settlement agreement and that he esoterically agrees that the $10 million belong to the state of Florida. Gard also explained to jurors that Florida statutes require the legislature to decide how money is spent, according to the grand jury report. Gard was also concerned about the political consequences if the legislature ever found out about the diversion. Gard did have political concerns about the dedication of $10 million to Hope Florida, which he raised with A.G. Moody, because he knew the deal would be viewed by the legislature as a constraint on their spending authority. Gard insisted the settlement be rewritten so that instead of the Attorney General directing Centene to send $10 million to Hope Florida, it would now state that the DeSantis administration's Agency for Healthcare Administration, AHCA, was directing Centene to send $10 million to Hope Florida. His political concerns were resolved by the change of the agreement, making the settlement AHCA's agreement rather than the AG's settlement agreement, as the problem would now be AHCA's problem rather than the AG's problem. After consulting AG Moody, she authorized Mr. Gard to sign the settlement agreement in its final form.
Now, 4 months after Moody and her team signed off on the diversion to the Hope Florida Foundation, Ron DeSantis appointed her to the United States Senate. And in January, DeSantis appointed Gard to be a judge on the state's 2nd District Court of Appeals, making him one of the most powerful judges in the state.
But Democrats are the party of fraud, right? Democrats are the ones who are prolific in their fraud and their stealing from the taxpayers. That's why we need a Doge, after all. It's why J.D. Vance is out there cutting off Medicaid and Medicare access to California and Minnesota and other woke liberal states. They don't care about fraud. It is quite self-evident at this point that that is not what this is about. This is about punishing the opposition. This is about punishing states that don't vote for Donald Trump. And in Ron DeSantis' case, just straight up theft, just straight up stealing $10 million. And now giving them positions. Ashley Moody named senator. Her deputy named one of the most powerful judges in Florida. Cronyism. Corruption. Here, I'll give you this position, but keep your mouth shut about the crimes that we committed, about the fraud we committed, about the scheme that we conspired to undertake. That's the Republican Party. It's not the Democrats. It's Republicans. More projection, more lies, more finger pointing when they are guilty of the thing they are accusing others of doing. They're accusing innocent people of doing the thing they themselves are trying to keep under wraps, passing out lucrative positions and Senate seats. Yeah. Anyway, what do you think? I'd love to know if you're from Florida and you're on the right side of this issue. If you have any other information, you can let me know in the comments, or if you feel more comfortable, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. You can call 714-576-4054. The hypocrisy is palpable. Anyway, I love and appreciate you very much. I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.